Hello, everybody, and welcome to coverage of our second quarterfinal of the Premodern Fall Brawl. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined today in the booth by none other than Lanny Huang. How's it going, Lanny?
It's going great. It's a chilly morning in Queens, but I'm excited for some hot Magic action.
Yeah, okay, so first of all, chat, I'm worried about this. Like, I thought I tested this. I feel like there's some feedback on my sound when I'm not speaking. I want to know if that's true or if it's how bad it is. Otherwise, I'm going to continue going, and we'll figure it out if that's the case. But we do have a matchup between Natural Order Rock and Hermit FEB. We did see our first quarter finals with the Hermit FEB deck, so we have a second Hermit FEB in the top 8 of the Fall Brawl. It is up against a different deck, the Natural Order Rock, so we'll see if the results are different with this different matchup.
Notably, I'm told by my sources that McLean Denny is none other than the Grand Master of the Hermit FEB Cabal.
Okay,
so we have merely seen the work of one of his minions in the previous match, but now McLean descends from his throne to show the world how to leave a Phyrexian Devourer in your graveyard at your end step and just end the game.
And I would say, like, of decks to be a master of, or the top of the Cabal, like Hermit FEB is one that seems like you get a lot of points because Hermit FEB is not an easy deck to play, and if you are one of the best players at it, I think you gain a lot of edges that other people would not have. So
this is like a great just like the drama of the fact that nobody really knows the win rate of Hermit FEB because there's two intervening factors. One, there is just one person on planet Earth who plays the deck at the highest level, and you're looking at him. You're going to be seeing him on screen. And two, the deck it can't be played online. So even the Grand Master, who's an active player online, has to turn to playing decks like Zombies and Survival Welder instead of his weapon of choice. So this is going to be delightful. Granted, he's facing the resistance of basic swamps paired with basic forest this time, which is going to mix things up in comparison to the pit rack match we saw earlier.
Yeah, so I'm going to quick bring up a little bit about the players. Let's do this here, and we can learn a little bit about them before we jump down to the match. But first up, we have Bernhard Schmidt. So he's out of Gelnhausen, Germany. He had a record of 7-1, so he placed as the third seed in this top 8. And he is playing the Natural Order Rock. So if you take your traditional Rock shell, you add the card Natural Order. That gives it a dimension that allows it to kind of go over the top of decks and have kind of an explosive draw, which is kind of absent from the traditional Rock list. He lists that it's favored versus Goblins and Oath decks, but struggles against Armageddon, Survival decks, and Hard Control decks. And he listed its sideboard MVP as Engineered Plague and Smother. And then a little bit more. We have saying, why did you choose this deck? He says, the Rock has been one of my favorite decks a long time, but it lacked the power to close games, as kind of I just mentioned, and runs into draws, so he saw the list by Christian Weisner and wanted to give it a go, and he really enjoys this Rock evolution. So for changes, he said he would add a Wither Wretch or a Potato, which would be the Plague Spitter, to the sideboard. He enjoys listening to audiobooks and cycling outside of playing Magic. And when asked, why should people root for you? He says, because it's my first Fall Brawl attendance. So not a bad performance for your first Fall Brawl to make the top 8. And then going on to McLean Denny, which with a profile picture that makes my skin crawl. That every time, like, I don't know what
make you hungry.
No, like when I saw it, I didn't realize like what it was at first. I thought it was like the inside of a person, like if you just remove their skin. And so like that's what I think of every time I see this photo. So it is. And then I did realize, okay, it is baked beans, and there's like some bacon and I think like a tomato slice and fried eggs, which does make me feel a little bit better. But my skin just crawls every time I see this photo.
And I haven't had breakfast, so I could really use a big old pile of baked beans right now.
All right. So McLean is out of Los Angeles in California. He had a record of 6-2 and took the 6th seed. He is playing the Hermit FEB deck that we talked about. He lists that it's favored against fair decks and decks that lacked early disruption. thanks to the powerful explosiveness of that Hermit FEB combo, or the Hermit Druid combo. But it could struggle with against Sly, blue-white standstill, zombies, black decks that can pressure life total while disrupting the, well, as I mistyped, graveyard, druid, and hand, which that last one might check the box for the Natural Order Rock, so we will see.
Hey, it checked the box for Pit Rack, and we all saw how that went.
Yep,
so.
yep. Sideboard MVP is listed as Source of Plowshares with a question mark. Bring in 2 times the Meddling Mage, let me chain 3 of them in a row to win the lockout. Was really sweet. So he's been impressed with the Meddling Mage as well. And then,
as we all should be.
Yeah, that's certainly a card that has gone up. Well, I mean, I feel like it's been a while. It's been at least 6 to 9 months where we talked about Meddling Mage kind of jumping back on the scene, but I don't feel like it's gone down in stock at all, in my opinion. McLean says that Hermit FEB was his choice, and he's grown to love everything about the deck. New additions are Meddling Mage and Undiscovered Paradise, courtesy of the Collective Cabal Consultations. So the CCC. And he said, Cave of Kolios may be wrong, but they're kind of testing it out. So
yeah, I love this little tidbit. It's just like, 59 cards I'm super locked in on. But I gotta say that Caves of Koilos is just like, doesn't feel good.
Yeah, or that Caves of Koilos, like that might be like a Llanowar Wastes or something like that.
Yeah. It's like a little suboptimal there. We need to work on that one.
So he noted some exciting moments that he had some extremely close games where he won at 1 twice. Also one where both players had he had 1 card left in deck to exile to get the Devourer Triskelion combo, and then he had an intense Hermit Druid standoff in the mirror match for his final match of the Swiss. Outside of Magic, he enjoys cooking, films, music, and backpacking. And when asked why should people root for you, because he loves carrots. I mean,
I gotta say it's not a really compelling case.
I would say, I mean, if you were on the fence, I don't know, like I would pick a person who likes carrots as compared to doesn't. So,
but I wouldn't assume that his opponent doesn't like carrots.
Sure, okay.
That's like the problem.
All right.
Like he needs to say that he likes carrots more than the other 7 players in the top 8 for it to matter. He might not even be the most carrot-loving top 8 member. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Okay, I have the deck list up for the Natural Order Rock in the hands of Bernhard. And what we see, kind of like what I talked about, if you take the rock shell, I don't even know like what elements get shaved for the Natural Order package, but what gets added is 4 copies of Natural Order, which if you sacrifice a green creature, you can get a green creature from your deck and put it directly into play. So the targets there are Verdant Force, Multani, Maro-Sorcerer, and Phantom Nishoba. Deranged Hermit I can see is also a card that you get, but that's pretty traditional to be in the rock lists. And then it's complemented by Black Disruption, a little bit of removal, some green mana accelerants with Wall of Roots and Birds of Paradise, and then the kind of the linchpin of black-green decks of Pernicious Deed. So is there anything you want to say about the Natural Order list, Lanny?
Yeah, specifically in this matchup, the Natural Order list is going to be a lot more exciting to watch than traditional Rock against Hermit FEB, largely because this deck can put out a 3-turn clock on turn 3, so it could conceivably win the game somewhere around turn 7, which is pretty fast for the Rock. So if they are able to do that, while in the midst of that stride disrupting the Hermit FEB opponent, we might actually see something that puts up a little bit more of a challenge to the Hermit FEB combo, which is very mana, cards, and resource intensive at the end of the day. So if we can weave in a timely Vendetta, Naturalizer, Cabal Therapy, and then follow it up with a Natural Order, we might actually see the Rock taking this one.
Okay, I'll bring
as
up,
compared to like a traditional, like a mid-rangey Rock build.
And I'll bring up the Hermit FEB deck. And so if you're not familiar with this list, this is probably pretty confusing of what's going on here. But in short, there's kind of 2 halves of combos. One involves the Hermit Druid. So if you're able to activate that, because you have no basic lands, your entire library gets milled. You're able to order it as you choose, since all the cards are going to the graveyard at the same time. And what happens is you end up like stacking cards. We'll go through it when it comes in, but basically you get to loop it and get a Volrath Shapeshifter that becomes a Psychatog that eventually gets a bunch of pumps that becomes a Hasty Achroma. That's the short of it. So you're able to kill your opponent in one shot. And then the survival half of the combo will typically go for Phyrexian Devourer, Triskelion, and Volrath Shapeshifter, so that you're able to deal a bunch of points of damage without the combat step, and can kind of just out of nowhere just shift, and just if you're able to cast or reanimate that Volrath Shapeshifter, you can get a quick win. What do you want to say about the Hermit FEB list?
That Caves of Koilos is could be the difference maker here. What's that horrible land that deals 3 damage to you? Is that for
Tarnish
Citadel?
Citadel? Yes. So
just send it, guys.
I would say, I would like
Citadel.
the thing is, your Tarnished Citadel is going to be dealing you 3 damage a lot in this list, because a lot of the cards is like the Cabal Therapies, Unearth, Birds of
I'll take
Paradise.
3,
like,
activate Survival.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yes, so it is a costly one. There's not too many generic mana costs in this list. So
yeah, I mean, I'm assuming here that and the Cabal can correct me if I'm wrong, they had a slightly higher need for white mana to support the main deck Meddling Mage, and that was the idea. Because if you just look at your screen, it's all green and black cards, and then you just need to make double blue for Shapeshifter. So but yeah, no, list is awesome. It can we made a comment on Spy Colony podcast that this deck puts together Royal Flush with 1 card in the form of Survival of the Fittest or Hermit Druid. So it's you're looking at, on one side, a rock deck that's trying to slice out like a synergistic piece to produce enough disruption to stop your opponent's game plan, and then you're looking at a deck that can produce an entire game plan off the top of their deck with 1 draw. So on paper, don't love the rock, but I also love that both players put the decks they fear as the other person's deck effectively. So I'm excited to see how this plays out.
is that the classic Parallax Replenish Goblins paradox? That
yeah, this is absolutely, yeah, both.
All right, let's jump down to the match. So we are playing a best of 5 today. So the first 2 games will be without sideboarded. Bernhard is the higher seed, so he gets to elect to play or draw, which is very relevant anytime you're playing against the Hermit FEB combo. And we can see Bernhard on the left with Natural Order Rock, and McLean with his Beans suit, Beans mask, on the right. So Lanny, if you want to let our players know that they can begin, we'll kick things off, and we'll see how this matchup goes. I do have a poll up. There's probably a little bit of time if you guys want to make a prediction on who you think is going to win this match. So you can put your channel points on the line if you think Bernhard is going to win, or if McLean is going to take it down.
I'm seeing some really low bets here. What is this, 214 versus 60? I'm looking for numbers in the thousands, chat. Come on.
Maybe some people are new to the channel, or maybe they're just like, hey, I just kind of want to put a little bit in just so I can feel like I got it. And I don't know. Or maybe they're just not sure. They're scared. So.
Unfortunately, it tells you who I voted for, but and I shouldn't be placing bets on a match I'm commentating because of moral quandaries. But we'll see how things go.
Okay, so the elements that I think that Bernhard needs early is, I guess, Cabal Therapy is probably his best card, since it could hit Hermit Druid or a Survival of the Fittest. So
right, but the question is, which one do you name?
Yeah, I mean, he does have options of, like, assuming that it wouldn't come down on turn 1, things like Elvish Spear Guide, he could have a creature to flashback and get the other piece that he'd miss. So it looks like we're revealing a hand of City of Brass, Caves of Koilos, a Hermit Druid, 2 copies of Unearth, a Cabal Therapy, and a Palinchron. So given that no card has gone to the graveyard, I'm guessing Survival of the Fittest was the card named.
Yeah, but if you named Hermit Druid, that Hermit Druid would just show right back up thanks to Unearth.
Okay.
So already I am I'm feeling McLean's side of the table here. I think that we didn't see an accelerator in the form of a Birds of Paradise on turn 1 of Bernhard, and this Cabal Therapy missing. is definitely not ideal. But if Bernhard follows up with a perfect Wall of Blossoms flashback therapy, naming Unearth into Vendetta, then he could be back in this game.
Yeah, it's funny that like Unearth, a lot of times I don't look at the card as like that powerful because Swords to Plowshare is so prevalent in the format, and exiling your card, like if you get your Hermit Druid exiled, then you're obviously not able to unearth it. But the black decks use just all cards that will send it to the graveyard. So Unearth is definitely like a key player against the strategies like the black removal spells.
Yeah, we're gonna see McLean giving Bernhard a taste of his own medicine. I feel like given this hand, the name here should be well, it's hard to say. So how fast can McLean produce a winning turn? It's just going to be turn 3 with the 3rd land drop. So really, and you're covered against Vendetta. So I think the only thing that I don't want to happen to me from McLean's side is actually just getting potentially Cabal Therapied again with removal backup. So I might go for naming Vendetta, even though there's 2 copies, just because it's the most efficient form of interaction for McLean's hand. But like Vendetta wouldn't bust it up. It would have to be like Vendetta plus creature.
Okay.
That's
what I was trying to process, whether Vendetta was something
and the
that
name
would
was
interact.
Vendetta.
Okay.
So McLean's bases are just covered 1,000,000,000%, and this game is going to reach a very quick conclusion.
I mean, if McLean stalls on mana, then Bernhard might have an extra turn of interaction that could come up, right? But I guess
so. I mean, it's not, because McLean can main phase the Hermit activation and just cast Unearth. So because he doesn't have to weave in. So earlier I said
because he has the Unearth in hand. Yeah.
Exactly. So I actually misspoke. He doesn't need the 3rd land drop because he doesn't need Crows and Reclamation to execute the combo. Caves of Coil is coming into play and tapping for generic mana. So point for Tarnished Citadel there. And we'll see if Bernhard gives us the joy of watching McLean execute this combo. But a hand of one of his natural order monsters, Cabal Therapy and Vendetta, was just not going to be enough to do it here. Are we worried about some instant speed interaction? No, right? Because this is I've spent so many hours of Hermit FEB related
you have the luxury
because they still forget if it matters.
Well, there's a Coffin Purge in the list, right? Like, so you could flashback the Cabal Therapy, see the hand, name any relevant spell, and then Coffin
and then
Purge the Hermit Druid, and then continue on. So
right. Okay, so it looks like we've got a bunch of fun and regular faces in chat but for those who are unfamiliar with what's about to happen, due to some rule shenanigans, this Volrath Shapeshifter is going to enter the battlefield as a copy of the card Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide lets McLean reanimate a creature out of his graveyard. The creature he's going to reanimate is Karmic Guide. That Karmic Guide is then going to reanimate a copy of Psychatog, which is then going to be sacrificed to Cabal Therapy in order to turn the Volrath Shapeshifter that's in play into a copy of Psychatog. That Psychatog's going to then activate a bunch of times until the last remaining card on top of the graveyard is Chroma Angel of Wrath, which is going to then attack for lethal. And I think McLean is looking for a hedge. Judging by his graveyard, he doesn't have any pieces in his hand to make things slightly more complicated. But even if that were the case, he could always just Cabal Therapy himself. And yeah, it looks like we're going to see the execution. Tarnished Citadel tapping for black here. At a healthy 16, we're not worried about it. And yeah, we're going to take some insurance against the potential top deck. I guess if you top deck Vendetta, you would cast it. So
sure.
McLean's just going to peruse over to Bernhard's deck list just to make sure that there's no angles here. Not a lot of cards that get cast at instant speed in the rock. In fact, the only card that gets cast at instant speed is Vendetta. Oh, and Naturalize.
Yeah, the one copy of Naturalize.
Yeah, the one copy of Naturalize.
All right.
And yeah, that's how it lands. So that's going. So McLean's going to go through the motions. We'll see if he taps his Volrath Shapeshifter to attack. I found that to be a very, very embarrassing miss operation. I hope Galen understands. I'm not. I mean no ill will, but yeah, come on, don't tap your Volrath Shapeshifter. It's an Acroma. Don't insult our Angel of Wrath in such a manner. But yeah, of course, if he sends that Acroma Shapeshifter in with Vigilance, you can just see why he's the Grandmaster atop the Cabal.
All right, the sequence that you talked about enters as a Karmic Guide, which brings back a Psychatog, and then the Cabal Therapy is flashback, and now the Shapeshifter is a Psychatog, which allows him to exile cards from his graveyard, which are going to give pumps to the Shapeshifter, and then the last activation will leave the top card as an Acroma Angel of Wrath, which would grant the Volrath Shapeshifter haste and a plethora of other abilities, but most relevant is haste, and he'll be able to attack for the win.
Yeah, and notably, there was nothing Bernhard could have done about this. No correct Cabal Therapy name. Okay, I guess the correct Cabal Therapy name would have been on Earth. but yeah. Oh, and we did get a Vigilant attack.
Okay.
McLean making sure to worry about the little things. And yeah, that was turn 3, by the way. So
through like it against a Cabal Therapy and a Vendetta.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was probably the top of McLean's range.
But also probably the top of like what Bernhard can do too.
Well, that would be assuming that Bernhard has a very large range of outcomes playing the rock. But where in fact the outcomes are really concentrated in the middle, right? So on McLean's playing a deck that has an outcome of draws that range somewhere between like fine to unbelievably great. We just saw unbelievably great. I don't know if Bernhard could have stacked his deck.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, if he looked at his hand, Bernhard was probably ecstatic because, like, this is probably as good as he's gonna get.
Yeah, he's like, I'm on the play. I got the Cabal Therapy. Yeah, I mean, judging from his hand, I think he played it absolutely optimally, right? You have the Vendetta in hand, so there's no point in Cabal Therapy Hermit Druid because you have Hermit Druid covered. You don't have Survival of the Fittest covered. The big problem with that hand is just what happens after that. It's like, okay, well, I've got the first 3. Like, let's assume that McLean didn't have the nuts. Bernhard would have had turns 1 through 3 under control, but following that, with just a Recurring Nightmare and a Phantom Nishoba, he wasn't going to get anything happening for quite a few turns, which would have given McLean plenty of time to rebuild. So despite the fact that hand, it was I actually wouldn't even say it was a great hand because it kind of felt like a 5-card hand given the presence of Recurring Nightmare and Nishoba. But then drawing 2 lands off the top just kind of solidifies the game you play when you play a deck that has effectively no way to control your draw.
All right, so it certainly seems like it's an uphill battle, at least for the second non-sideboarded game for Bernhard. I mean, things could go worse where McLean doesn't have such an ideal hand, but if McLean has all the cards, I think there's not much that Bernhard can really do. So is the playmat of McLean like also a cribbage board?
I think the cribbage board thing every time. I'm pretty sure it isn't. I'm pretty sure it's like probably an artist or maybe some painting from a person who paints.
I guess like those just definitely look like peg holes. Like I don't know what.
Chat is chiming in that it is in fact a cribbage board. I mean, cribbage board dragon. I don't know if there's a count on these holes, but it feels like I couldn't put a peg in quite a few of them, so I don't understand. To answer Dmitry Novikov's answer. I just call it like I see it. All right. I'm not. I'm in commentary mode, so I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to show my bias. My bias is that this is an unplayable cribbage board, if that's what it is. I do love the Noble Game of Cribbage. I haven't played in quite a while, but core memories of actually playing cribbage with my mother.
Okay.
As a young child.
I have not played a ton of cribbage. I played a little. I do remember. I guess my core memory is my wife and I like took like a vacation, just like to some local Wisconsin place in the fall, and we just had like 5 days, and we just like did some stuff, and then in the evening we would go back to our little hotel thing and just play cribbage. So.
Look, it's a gateway drug to Magic. We'll just say this. Right.
She hasn't gotten there, so we do play a lot of euchre though.
So this is a game pre-sideboard, so we don't have naturalizes yet. So of course, Cabal Therapy is going to cover the biggest leak in.
I believe there might be one naturalize, right?
Yeah, there's one naturalize, but there aren't three. So
yeah.
Unless he has the one naturalize in hand, he's going to live very much in fear of survival, and of course, survival noted #1 offender. So McLean with a much less explosive hand this time, and this Meddling Mage is in an interesting position. I might be motivated to name Natural Order with this Meddling Mage when it comes down, but we will have to see. Pernicious Deed is like the #1 name for me, like when I'm playing against the Rock with most Meddling Mage decks, right? Because Deed always picks up the mage and other stuff, but given the board state, it might be possible that Bernhard might be removing his own progress with the activation of Pernicious Deed.
All right, Wall of Roots has been added for Bernhard. Which he's used a Cabal Therapy. I was gonna say, does present the option to have a turn 3 natural order with providing a mana accelerant and
oh my god, what a master! Thank you. This is why McLean is on top of the Cabal. This is Disneyland, right? Like if your deck did this for you all the time, like why wouldn't you play it?
I thought you were just gonna say this is why I don't like the Rock. That's what I thought you were gonna lead that with. But
no, I mean, I don't know how long I have to get into this, but you have to play your ranges with the Rock, right? You're always living under the threat of your opponent top decking something. The idea is that it's going to happen at least a low enough percentage of the time that hopefully the rest of your deck can deliver. Once again, I just call it like I see it. I have no feelings towards the Rock. And
with the Shapeshifter already in hand, McLean just needs a creature. So for the Devourer and Triskelion combo, he just needs a creature and then a turn.
That's correct. So this is going to be a Palinchron line, which does mean that McLean is going to be vulnerable to a Vendetta or a Naturalize. Again, the only instance present in Bernhard's deck. I think McLean is also somewhat in no rush, so he could set up a unassailable kill here if he wants to, by probably starting with pitching to go find a Wall of Roots, and then using pitching to find a Wall of Roots. I mean, he would need 2 creatures, but pitching to find a Wall of Roots, and then pitching a Squee, and then getting some Squee value going, so that he can set up a turn where he has exactly 5 mana and all the pieces in hand.
If he has 2 creatures in hand, he could discard a creature to go get Devourer, discard it, and then get Elvish Spirit Guide. And then if he, like you said, if he has another creature, then he could just play the Shapeshifter and exile the Spirit Guide and go get Triskelion. And then I guess, yeah.
So you're suggesting a line in which we do face down creature #1 pitches for Devourer, then pitches Devourer for Shapeshift, or then pitches Devourer for Elvish Spirit Guide. So 3 activations. First activation is face down creature #1. Face down card #1 is a creature. We're going to convert it into a trike, face down creature number 2, we're going to convert first into a Devourer and then into an Elvish Spirit Guide. So our hand is going to be Shapeshifter, Trike, Spirit Guide at the start of our following turn.
He can get a Squee in that mix too, right? Because he has a 3rd mana, and then he would guarantee have a creature.
It's 3 activations because it's 2 activations to filter a blank creature through a Devourer and then into a Spirit Guide, and it's 1 more activation to get the trike.
But he could do the trike on the next turn. He could trigger all the activations of the Devourer, and then
that's correct. But he would be short mana because he needs 5 mana if that's the case. Or no, he can't trigger all the activations with Devourer because the Devourer activations could exile the trike. That's the reason.
Okay.
I hope everyone's following. So we'll see if McLean elects to be conservative. Again, granted, with no pressure from the rock and no real way to deal with this, it's possible that just running a completely conservative line is fine. Because at this point, no amount of interaction, short of maybe the 1 Naturalize, is going to stop him from ending the game. But of course, if Bernhard passes with very little mana open, McLean could just take the go ahead here.
Yeah, I guess my instinct is always to like combo fast as possible, but like especially when you have open deck lists and you know like your opponent's list, you can just be like, hey, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that you could do in these next few turns that I'm afraid of.
Yeah, there's no reason to. I think it's reasonable to just take a shot here because even if you take a shot, you don't lose. But we're just going to go give him some squeeze. We don't know the 2 face down cards in McLean's hand, so given the presence of not 2 more creatures or whatever, could have changed his decisions here. But as Robin is astutely pointing out, this game has reached a conclusion. We're just going to go through the motions.
He did discard the Shapeshifter, that's correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
could be an indication that there's an unearth in hand, but
I mean that would just be so unfair, right? Like what?
Or that there's no other
Come on,
creatures.
Mike. That's you gotta.
I guess I'm just thinking. I guess you always can get the other one if you need to, but that would lead me to believe that he doesn't have other creatures in his hand to discard.
That's correct. I've made the same deduction as well. Like I would sooner discard the card that is in Volrath Shapeshifter if it's like some other creature. The fact that it could be an unearth would just, once again explain to the world why McLean is considered in many circles to be the master. McLean is doing a lot of work with his right index finger here, but I'm assuming he's doing all the 4D chess that's necessary to figure out how he's going to capture the remaining 5% of possibilities.
I would say it's something that I personally struggle with is like when you're in a good position but trying to find the most optimal line or the thing like that's like closest to perfect. When you have a bunch of decisions that are all really good and still like very likely for you to win, I have sometimes a difficult time figuring out which one is the most optimal.
Absolutely. I've begun to sort of think and talk about this at length because I have a great curiosity with certain players who are capable of extremely impressive things. Players like Dr. Richard Shea, and the fundamental question is like I always wonder if they have like a turn or a situation where they just like don't know what to do because that happens to me like all the time. It happens to me like an embarrassing amount of the time where I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. Like I don't know what to do. Like I know something I can do, but I just like don't know. I have no good reason why it's the play that I should make right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I much more relate to your situation, where a lot of times I do know what my plan is, what my game plan, or what to do, but there definitely are situations where I just get overwhelmed. And I think you described before, you're just kind of like, you think for a while and then you just make a decision kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just like literally think for a while, and after like a minute has passed, and I'm just like, well, I have not made any progress.
Yeah.
McLean is going to pitch the Squee on top of the Palinchron, eliminating the possibility of a Palinchron related line. But given the presence of that Triskelion, I think we do have an Unearth in hand, and we're going to see the most unfair thing happen to a player that's been Cabal Therapy twice. Yeah, just drawing perfectly off the top. Come on. This man has a family. I mean, I assume that Bernhard has a family. We all have a family, right? This man at least has a family of all natural order rock players in pre-modern around the world. And unfortunately, we're going to be witness to a murder.
Yep. So we are seeing the other half of the combo of this deck. So thanks to Survival, the Volrath Shapeshifter is a Phyrexian Devourer. McLean is able to exile cards on top of the library. There will be a trigger to bury the Devourer, but you're able to respond to that. And you can respond by making it a Triskelion and then removing the counters and just killing your opponent with those +1/+1 counters.
Are you a Magic the Gathering arena player, Hoip?
I mean, I play both that and Magic Online. Not a ton.
Outed. Oh, we've got a Vendetta. It doesn't matter. Just spoiler alert, it doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter is because this combo can be executed at instant speed and it's uninterruptible, right? So if at any point you Vendetta, you essentially counter just one activation of Phyrexian Devourer, which the player can then respond to by continuing to activate Phyrexian Devourer. And thanks to the fact that McLean already has the Triskelion hand, with the Vendetta still on the stack, the Triskelion can turn into a the
Shapeshifter
can turn into a Triskelion and execute the combo from that point. The funnier thing, in my opinion, would be stack all of the Devourer triggers without letting them resolve, so that the sacrifice clause doesn't happen, and then change it into whatever freaking creature with a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it, and simply let the Vendetta resolve. Because that would be style points. I asked if you played any Magic the Gathering on Arena because, oh man, he's busting out the dice. This is just like it's good to keep count. I mean, this is why he's the master, right? He's always keeping track. So on Magic the Gathering Arena, for the uninitiated, you're allowed to play games against Sparky. And Sparky is it's actually kind of like a Will-o'-the-Wisp. It's just like a little embodied ball of light. And Sparky doesn't put up much resistance to your strategy, so you can put your deck through its paces and see how it goes. Now, not to say that Bernhard didn't put up any resistance. In fact, he put up a lot of resistance in both of these games. But McLean must have felt like he was playing against Sparky for these last two games. He's like, I've got this deck. It's called Hermit FEB. I want to take it out for a little stretch, see how this FEB combo works, see how this Hermit combo works. And he got to showcase both for us on screen. And showcase the full power of the deck. Spoiler alert for the audience, it does not always go this well, right? You got to witness the power of Unearth, allowing McLean to cheat on mana in both cases. You got to witness like the pure resiliency of just having, once again, Unearth being both a mana accelerant and a way to access extra redundancy on the combo. And then you got to witness exactly what I said in the pregame, which is just that McLean puts together a Royal Flush with the presence of exactly one card. Now, granted, this time it wasn't exactly one card. It was Survival of the Fittest in conjunction with any creature in his deck and Unearth and 3 mana. But we can reduce that, of course, to Survival being just a completely insane top deck from that position. So
Do you think Bernhard was after the game? Do you think he reassured McLean with a cheery voice, as Sparky does after he beat them?
I think it's. I think I'm gonna go with he probably did not. He probably reassured McLean that he's not having a good time right now, bro.
I'm just not having a good time.
I'm straight up not having a good time. When Itai defeated me in the semifinals of LobsterCon, I just like looked at him and was like, "You're really gonna do this to your dad, aren't you?" After I mulled to 4 and just got pounded into oblivion. So I have to imagine Bernhard in the top 8 of his first Fall Brawl is getting an unfortunate initiation into into who runs the streets of the Derby top 8. That is none other than Grandmaster McLean Denny. Nobody is going to cross him in the top 8 without a little bit of experience under their belt.
Yeah, we do have the benefit that now we have access to sideboards, and looking at what Bernhard has, there is a Haunting Echoes, 2 Naturalize, 2 Tormod's Crypt, a Vendetta, a Smother, 2 Chainer's Edict, 3 copies of Ravenous Baloth, and 3 copies of Engineered Plague. So I could see cards that interact: Naturalize, Tormod's Crypt, Vendetta, Smother, maybe even Chainer's Edict, and the Engineered Plagues. All are cards that...
Leave them at home, Bernhard. Read my lips. I know you're muted. I know I'm muted right now. Just leave the plagues at home. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Don't do it, Bernhard. We just got into like a second protracted argument about this whole engineered plague named Druid, named Phyrexian, and Robin just kind of like outlined a triple pronged argument about ways that engineered plague can be defeated, and I just like looked at it and I'm just like, okay, so why do we even have this card in?
Well,
like,
I'll counter it with like one disruption piece from the rock typically has not been enough. Like, I mean, we just saw it. Like, you take a card out and it gets unearthed. Well, at least like Engineered Plague, if you name human, like at least you're cutting off the line of the Hermit Druid and then killing unearth. Yeah, if they have survival, then you're in trouble. But at least Engineered Plague like deals with a Hermit Druid and an unearth. Like, I don't know. I think you need a critical mass of cards in this type. The problem then is this rock deck doesn't do a great job of pressuring. It kind of needs to rely on natural order, which is a little bit slow and clunky if you're spending that much time like disrupting the opponent. So it'll be interesting to see what the balance is, like how many disruptive cards, and if they come into play, like where's the pressure coming from.
Exactly. And I think that it can be a good tool, don't get me wrong, but there is kind of a fundamental problem with this being the difference between a card like Engineered Plague and a card like Plague Spitter, of course. Whereas Plague Spitter can be played proactively. It doesn't have to make a soul read name, and it can provide some board control and shut off Hermit. It doesn't shut off Shapeshifter, of course. But it is going to eat all of the birds of paradise along the way. And I'm sure that has factored into Bernhard's pre-game interview, in which he wanted to add some potato to his sideboard. And I also do agree that Engineered Plague is a more live card than Yavimaya Elder, and probably a slightly more live card than Recurring Nightmare. So those are all good points to make. But at the end of the day, I would sooner use a card like Tormod's Crypt even to counter Unearth than Engineered Plague, just on the basis of the fact that it costs 0 mana. Now, looking at the curve of Bernhard's deck, he might float 3 mana randomly throughout the game, and you know, maybe Engineered Plague might even just be preferable to a card like Pernicious Deed, because even though Pernicious Deed can answer survival, it can't really do so without costing 5 mana. So, all interesting points to consider. I gotta say, given the experience of Flores playing against David Tao in the finals of the LobsterCon side event, with granted the version of Lanny Rock, he just felt like the only option was to beat down. In fact, the only game that he won was on the back of just attacking with a couple Treetop Villages bunch, while he had David Tao just off balance enough to execute some beatdowns. And in that final, he didn't bring in Engineered Plague, which I literally picked up his sideboard and I was like, does he even know that you can name Phyrexian? And then he was like, oh, of course I know that you can name Phyrexian. But of course, me, very stable genius, knows is thinking three layers above that, and like the only thing is like, God, we're gonna hunting echoes, and just like we're just going to control the board on the board, and we're gonna hunting echoes. And I was like, okay, yeah, that just sounds super wrong. I feel like you just forgot that you can name Phyrexian. Yeah, in discussing with Robin, he was just like, okay, so I spend 1 extra mana to put a Psychatog in my graveyard, or I just spend 2 extra mana and shuffle back Shapeshifters instead of shuffling back Unearths, and then I win. And I'm like, okay, well that doesn't sound hard for you at all. Like initially I was just like, well, at least it makes it hard. I was like, I've played against McLean several times, and every single time I had an Engineered Plague on Phyrexian, he like Ray of Revelation or Disenchanted. I'm like, okay, well, this must be a good card. He's trying to remove it. But when it was outlined to me what it takes to beat an Engineered Plague, I was just kind of like, okay, well, never mind then. We've got both players on a mulligan to 5, by the way, back into the action. And I got to say, these mulligans are going to greatly favor McLean, thanks to the fact that he has some 1-card wins. However, McLean does want mana sources in his draw. So it is possible that a well-placed Duress and a little bit of Mana Screw could put McLean off balance.
All right, I'm just gonna. Okay, so McLean is deciding what the second card to put on the bottom is. All right, that looks like where we're at. So
yeah.
Bernhard is ready. He's like, I'm putting my Verdant Force and my Phantom Nishoba right at the bottom.
Oh man, don't you love that? Don't you love having cards that are automatically put on the bottom?
Yes. I'm currently playing.
You're such a huge Rock fan, and we're just sitting here talking about how you want to make fewer decisions. And I guess in a sense, Rock does make you make fewer decisions because so often you just have no cards in hand. So you don't have to do anything. You just draw a card and you're like, oop, it's a land. Okay, I'll play a land. We're like, oh, I might not play the land this turn so that my opponent thinks that I didn't draw a land. Like, I'll attack with my Treetop Village. Magic is fun, guys. Rich is like playing the Rock for the first time. He's like, I hate this deck. No cards in hand. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. All right, looks like players are kicking things off. Bernhard will start with a swamp and looks
Cabal
like
Therapy. Oh, this time it's a Duress. The low skill Cabal Therapy, if you will, and Duress is going to pick off a Duress.
Remaining cards in McLean's hand are Yavimaya Coast, Undiscovered Paradise, Gemstone Mine, and Meddling Mage.
Yeah, Bernhard is out here. He's just like, you know what? Multi 5 wasn't enough. Let's go to 4, baby. I'm pretty hyped on this hand of a bunch of mana sources for McLean because whoops, Bernhard just flashing a second Tormod's Crypt, so both Tormod's Crypts did indeed come in.
Okay.
So Unearth is handily turned off for the rest of the game. So McLean is going to be basically pigeonholed into a survival-based strategy. It is possible, but I wouldn't say probable that he elected to trim on Hermit, given the pace of destruction. And we might also see my favorite type of game, which is Meddling Mage doing 20 damage to the opponent.
Yeah, I'm not sure what card you name looks like. Oh.
I wouldn't name Pernicious Deed. You want to sack both your crypts, bro? You just be my guest. Yeah, I think I'm naming probably something like Natural Order. Granted, post sideboard we still have three Vendettas post sideboard, so Vendetta is probably a decent name. I'm gonna go with Vendetta. Yeah, I would just name Vendetta. McLean is going to go deal with likely saving somebody out of a burning building.
Oh, I was gonna say he's gonna go grab a carrot, but I don't know.
Carrot. No. Actually, I think what he's going to do is check in on when the solar eclipse is happening this year.
Priorities, man. I know.
Oh, okay. So this name on deed means that McLean is simply not interested in, is not fearing these Tormod's Crypts. I think from this position, I would just be very happy to, like, maybe I have a little bit of analysis wrong. Like, deed is, I mean, I might even name Naturalize, though, if I was worried about protecting survival. But you know, I'm not going to doubt the Grandmaster. The name is Deed, and I think Deed is always a safe name.
I mean, I don't know how many extra cards are lands in his hand, but you might get to the point if you have a bunch of lands where just having a survival and like one creature could just set you up, like even if they have a Naturalize, that you're able to basically do what you want.
That's true. You would need 7-ish lands to put yourself in a position to do that, though, because you would need to use the Volrath Shapeshifter's activated ability in order to get anything done.
Well, I mean, I guess you would have one turn where you use the survival and you get, you devour Shapeshifter and get Triskelion, and then the next turn you just need 5 because you just play and discard.
The presence of the crypts means that he
Yep.
needs to have it all rolled up.
That's fair.
So, and actually, the activated ability is actually, it doesn't work because the activated ability isn't a cost. All right. I mean, this is such a waste of time, but to dig into some rules text thing. Little intricacies. This Treetop Village is going to jump in to stop the Pecula beatdowns. So the reason why he can't roll it up with Shapeshifter's activated ability against the Tormod's Crypts is because the Shapeshifter's activated ability reads 2 generic call-in, discard a card. So that discard a card ability needs to be put on the stack, which means that it can be responded to. Because discard a card is before the call-in on Survival of the Fittest, it can't be responded to with Tormod's Crypt. So this Crypt is actually going to cut McLean off from any world in which he wins without Survival of the Fittest on the table. And with 3 Naturalizes post-board, Bernhard might just be happy to play that stop survival game for as long as possible. Now, granted, I mean, and that also just like leads me to believe that the name here should have been Naturalized instead of Pernicious Deed. But McLean may have other plans. Maybe his plan is just go wide with tutus. Like, I think, honestly, looking at McLean's sideboard, the only extra thing that I would have brought in was just the additional Squee and the Auramancer to help with the grinding.
Okay.
But Meddling Mage doesn't really excite me. I mean, it looks pretty decent here. And if a second Meddling Mage joins the table and names Naturalize, it could make things a little bit awkward for Bernhard. But thanks to the fact that Vendetta costs 1 mana, Bernhard can always unlock certain spells unexpectedly from underneath McLean. So Bernhard really needs to put a clock on as McLean assembles his board and mana, because he is going to be just a survival of the fittest and a creature away from doing some good stuff. Oh, also, I wanted to add that the coolest thing that McLean mentions in his interview is just survivaling for more copies of Meddling Mage, which is a very live and valid play. Just like, why would I need combo pieces? I'm just going to get more copies of Meddling Mage and my opponent can't cast any spells.
I would love to see just a natural Palinchron come down and just make a 4/5.
What is Bernhard going to do against a 4/5 flyer with protection? Just
if you have a Vendetta right away, the protection's not up. So
I'm aware, but at some point, Bernhard is going to have to play a spell. It's not going to be Pernicious Deed, but it could be a spell. And he might find himself without 1 black mana attached.
I mean, it could. What if it's just an Acroma? Like, what if we get to 8 and just hard cast Acroma?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at 8, Mike. I guess I know what we're survivaling for with the first activation. We'll see if McLean sees the line. I'm sure he does. And wowie zowie, as J-Bro would say. Honestly, Premodern at its finest. McLean, over the course of 3 games, just demonstrating the entire range of the Hermit FEB deck. Bernhard showing a good amount of the range of the rock deck. He hasn't cast Natural Order, but he's done a lot of other rocky stuff so far. I guess Bernhard hasn't really done anything. He's just cast like three discard spells and a Vendetta, huh? Just across every game.
I thought that's what you're kind of implying. So.
Yeah, no. I was trying to be. No, I lied. I lied to the audience. Like I said, I didn't want to show my bias, but clearly, clearly some things cannot be hidden.
All right, we do have the survival, so.
Oh my god. If McLean, like, okay. So, what can Bernhard do? Bernhard can naturalize the survival and then Cabal Therapy a Chroma Angel of Wrath. That's what Bernhard can do. Everyone in chat assuming that the face down card is a creature. Look, McLean is not that good, all right? Like, I know what we saw in game 1. I know what we saw in game 2. But there's no way McLean's last card is a creature. It's probably, if I had to guess, I would guess that the last card is a Tarnished Citadel. But alas, it's probably just the Caves of Koilos. Okay. We're going to get in with... No, it doesn't work. So I was like thinking maybe if we could just like tap down Bernhard's green mana, we could like get under the Naturalized. But McLean's just sitting there. He's like, ooh, I have access to every creature in my deck. Which one will it be? Which one will it be? I mean, at this point, I would just get a... what can I mean, face down Exalted Angel's looking pretty good right here. Get the Psychatog. Just...
Against the Torment Scripts.
Just gets a trike.
I mean, that... Yeah.
It's a 4/4. It gets in for 3. I don't know. We could get Squee and then pitch Squee and get Mesmeric Fiend. And then Squee could eat a Tormod's Crypt activation. We could get another Meddling Mage. Pretty tempting. Okay. So yeah, I guess the tricky thing here is...
Ooh.
Okay. Do we have a land drop this turn? Let's just say yes. We are going to go fetch. We're going to get a Karmic Guide. No, we're going to get a Chroma. Then, oh no, it doesn't work because there's 2 clips to play. I mean, I would just chill on this activation, right? I mean, oh, the Naturalize is coming in on the end step. Sorry, I'm doing a horrible job on the play-by-play. So this is where we respond. Let's just get the Achroma, man. Let's just get the Achroma. Let's get one Squee and get a Chroma, and then force Bernhard to have Cabal Therapy.
Yeah,
This is not one of those situations where I wouldn't know what to do.
I mean, I'd probably also get the Squee and make him use one of the Tormod's Crypts.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, sorry. Or is there anything else I would want to get? Yeah, I'm not thinking anything.
I mean, he could conceivably remove... Oh, okay. So what he... Okay. That actually makes the decision quite hard, right? Because pitching the Devourer means that the Devourer is no longer a part of the game plan. So this is going to be all in on a Chroma Angel of Wrath, and a Chroma of Angel of Wrath could definitely get Cabal Therapied here. And yeah, so we are committed to the line.
I'd love to see it.
I honestly, I mean, if Bernhard has this Cabal Therapy, we are looking at a pretty
Pretty even game board. Or
yeah,
game state,
well,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
not even. I think that Bernhard would just be on his way towards winning, because that would leave the only threats left in McLean's deck as Triskelion and Palancron and Karmic Guide and Meddling Mage and Elvish Spirit Guide and Hermit Druid, all of which get blocked, most of which get blocked by Treetop Village. But unfortunately for Bernhard, his hand is 3 Pernicious Deeds. Man, really got a feel for him. Or 3 Naturalize. I mean, the first Naturalize is great, right? But the next ones aren't going to be doing anything. But he is caressing that swamp with intent, I would say. So I've been in this position, the same position as Bernhard against Hermit FEB, where I'm just like, this has got to be good, right? There's not like some weird way in which
I'm falling for a
McLean is
trap.
like, McLean's like, ooh, now that you've put my Chroma Angel Wrath into the graveyard, and then you exiled it with Tormod's Crypt, I can use the old wish rule to use my 1 living wish to get the Achroma back, which I never would have been able to do unless you had fallen exactly for that. Oh no, we're tapping 2 mana, thank God.
Chainer's Edict, okay.
Chainer's Edict.
Which with Bernhard
with
at
flashback
6 mana, that like,
oh my God, this game is awesome. This is like, man, I just want to see this go to 5 games, because this is just sweet. You've got like one player just like clinging on for dear life, just like using every ounce of like utility that he has access to, and then one player that's just like going to beat him over the face with a giant angel in the absence of doing anything. Yeah, you know, McLean would love to see a Wasteland or Avalanche Riders from this point, but unfortunately, no help. So I do want to note that okay, let's talk about a couple things first. One, I would, given this, have probably picked up a Squee, right? Which would have given us the given us something for the Chainer's Edict to eat.
oh yeah.
And also, or the Tormod's Crypt to eat, right? Because eventually he could just fight. He's got 2 Squees, he's got 2 Crypts, right? So he's not going to get the second Squee with the Crypt for fear of just getting other comboed. But yeah, once again, things are going to get awkward, right? Because McLean is going to attempt to win the game using his combo pieces, which means that he won't be able to win the game using his combos. So we'll see how this goes. But McLean is going to go ahead and put his foot down in saying, I certainly do not think that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, that's Palancron off the top. Oh nope, it's a Necroma. Yeah. Well, we're just going to have to see the skill level of Bernhard here in the ability to draw a land from the top of his deck, a land when he needed it most. Given his luck, I'm assuming that he draws a Birds of Paradise to, yeah, suck it, Achroma. Oh man. Is this Justice? Oh, is he going to cast one from his hand? Ooh, nice.
Okay.
Even better. So, I mean, this is really cool because, conceivably, Bernhard, in his mastery of the rock, even though he tapped his lands incorrectly for the deed or the edict, it actually doesn't matter. Bernhard, with the second edict in hand, could have put himself in a position where he sandbagged the second land and just completely baited McLean. Although I think he might have hit every land. No, he hasn't hit every land drop. Could have baited McLean into a position where McLean has to make a decision whether or not to commit the Chroma, right? Because McLean just can play little guys to surround his Chroma with, without knowledge that the second Chainer's Edict is there. So the 2 edicts don't do anything without a Chroma Angel of Wrath on the table. So McLean could have just started playing, his 1 Wall of Roots or whatever, or just like waited until he found a second survival and then gotten Squee, and then once again populated the board with little guys. So from this position, with McLean just at 11 life, facing down potentially 2 Treetop Village attacks every turn, this game is going to draw to a conclusion quite quickly, because there's just no way for McLean to produce a 1-turn win from here.
Yeah. And so the Tormod scripts haven't been activated, but just the threat of activation, I think, definitely impacted the game. Like, otherwise, that survival would have been able to kill with just that much mana. So, well,
yeah,
technically they haven't been activated. They've definitely done their job just by being in play. So,
yeah, I mean, it might be interesting to think if 1 would have been enough versus 2, but you have 2 in your sideboard, you're not going to not bring them in. Let's go for the throat here. Hopefully Bernhard sees that there is not much McLean can do in forms of resistance and animates the second treetop. But once again, I have been in this position where I'm just like, oh, surely this is going to be like Karmic Guide flicker effect twice.
Bernhard now ahead on life, so it's 6-5, and more relevantly, it's a 1-turn clock with the 2 Treetop Villages. So unless McLean, I mean, Wall of Roots would probably be the best card that he could start with, but even then, I think that just means that Bernhard would take a turn off by flashing back Cabal Therapy or Chainer's Edict. So,
I mean, Bernhard would probably just cast the Vendetta that's chilling in his hand or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's just see how you sideboard real quick. I guess I'm naming Vendetta here if my plan is to play a creature. Okay. But what's the craziest thing that could happen? So we're running out of painless sources here. Oh. Would I have played a Deranged Hermit? No, because Deranged Hermit attacks for 9 and this just attacks for 6. All right. So it looks like this game's over. But yeah, awesome. Do we call it a comeback? Both players on 4 cards. I mean, I said that the player with fewer cards. I said players with fewer cards was going to favor McLean, but clearly I was wrong. So yeah. McLean, just 1 card short. In my dalliances with the modern burn deck. Oh, he did draw survival, but no creature. In my recent dalliances with the modern burn deck, I ran into this idea that fundamentally the burn deck wins by 1 card, right? You don't typically deal exactly 20 damage. This happens in Premodern too, of course. You don't typically deal 20 damage and still have like 6 more damage in your hand, right? That's just not how the game works. In fact, the burn deck would be really good if it always could kill you by over 6 damage. And this has always been true. This has always been true of like the red deck win style strategies. So like they're really good at dealing exactly 20. They're really good at winning the game the turn before your opponent would have won the game. It makes me wonder, these decks, I mean, I don't know, is every game of Magic actually just won by a much smaller margin than we think? And like the behavior of the decks make it, I mean, okay, games 1 and 2, McLean could have won the turn that he won and then every single turn afterwards.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. And he did have like a still had all these sort of situation. I'm just spitballing here. So decks like Burn, mid-range, these sort of like decks that win on capitalizing cards for their value, sort of like win the game with sort of like an average conglomeration of the value of the cards. For Burn, it's like the average value is 3 damage. For the Rock, the average value is 1.01 cards. It's just like every time you play a card, you're getting 0.01 back in value. And then combo decks always win by 1 card, right? Because they're 1 short of the short card of the combo, and then they just like don't win the game. But it's just like much more dramatic in those situations where you top deck the combo card. So in a sense, they've won the game with their opening hand, just like on the volume of cards in their opening hands. And then you have like these control decks that always win the game with incredible amounts of resources to back up, just like the Still Had All These situation. But they've won the game when they cast like Wrath of God or whatever. So they still kind of win by one card. So every deck kind of wins by one card. They just like do it in ways that like feel differently. Mike is always like, it just feels good to win with Burn. Like, it feels good. Like, it feels amazing to win with Rock. Bernhard, like, McLean is over here. He just smushed Bernhard in the first 2 games. He probably feels nothing. He's just like, this is another day. This is like another day at the race. Bernhard, on the other hand, with his 1 win, is like, just like grabbing victory from the jaws of defeat. Just like, oh, there's an Necroma. I've got my Chainer's Edict, and I've got my flashback Chainer. Oh, but you thought I was gonna play. I've got a second. Like, his Still Had All These was like, well, I got a second copy of Chainer's Edict. What are you gonna do? And it's just like, it's like a turn 1 Duress. It's like, oh, now we're both on 4 cards, Yuki boy. What are you gonna do? Bernhard has a lot more wind in his sails right now than McLean does. Notably, McLean is going to be on the play for the first time in the series, so we'll see how that goes for Bernhard. I even dared to ask. I even dare to ask, could McLean potentially take the draw?
Certainly didn't come to my mind at all.
I mean, so we think that he's like a fast combo deck, right? But I would have probably like boarded out like the acceleration, like Elfish Spirit Guides and other like stuff. We're gonna see an instant mulligan snap mull from McLean. Maybe the Cabal just thinks I'm completely insane, but it's just like, it's the same way I board out Mox Diamond in my Mox Diamond decks against the Rock, right? I would board out Elvish Spirit Guides. I want to play a grindy game. Like, all of my cards are heavily reliant on material. Now, notably on the draw, your opponent can go Duress and then Cabal Therapy. So if he Duresses and sees a Hermit Druid, he can Cabal Therapy before that Hermit Druid comes down. But even so, I think that the priority may have shifted for McLean to not try to win the game early. And if he's not winning the game early, I might even consider taking the draw in a grindy matchup in which every piece of material matters. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if I wouldn't think that, but I guess I can't disagree with your assessment. So
I probably like always incorrectly take the draw and just like feel really smart when
how often are you taking the draw?
I took the draw against Brian Selden in Lobstercon.
Okay.
And he roasted me for it. He was like, well, I disenchanted his land tax, so it seems like a stupid move. Stupid. But it doesn't make any sense, because if he had to disenchant, then my land tax wouldn't trigger anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways. Freaking North American pre-modern champion Brian Selden thinks he's so smart. Oh, Lanny, what a knucklehead. He took the draw. Yeah, I took the draw. I would do it again. Have you ever drawn a card? You don't know. You don't know until you start the game with 8 cards in hand. All of us start with an emblem that says, anytime you want, you can start the game with 8 cards. And so often we say we don't want to. What's the deal with that? We're down on a multi-5, McLean, so I am going to maybe get the 5-game series that I wish for. We'll see.
Looks like Bernard's keeping 6, so
I would love to be on the draw now.
That's true. Yeah, anytime you're facing against a deck with discard spells, like, I feel like the mulligan just hurts that much more. Since you kind of assume those are cards that they are prioritizing anyways. So,
oh, that Caves of Koilos. Rough. Can't cast a Birds of Paradise with that. You know what can? Tarnish it all, baby. I'll take 3 damage all day if it means I got a Bird of Paradise on turn 1. All right. Bernhard has been 3 for 3 on discard, and he's going to make it 4 for 4 on discard on turn 1. So love to see it. Let's see if he's got the Soul Read this time. Oh, we've got Tabby coming in to fight these crypts, and I'm assuming the name was what? So we have a hand that can answer survival and not answer Hermit Druid.
Yeah, that's my guess. If I'm guessing
or
that's the
Meddling
card name
Mage.
was.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't name Meddling Mage.
Yeah.
All right. So from here, we have Survival of the Fittest. I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. McLean can sandbag this survival and try to wait until he gets value, but if he does that, then he'll just lose it to the flashbacks for Cabal Therapy. So this Naturalize is going to be pretty straightforward exchange, and maybe we'll see Volrath Shapeshifter's hidden ability where it can come into play as a Survival of the Fittest. They're like, haha.
All right, we do see the Naturalize. So now McLean left with just 2 cards, and I'll note the Quetzalcoatls and then the Gemstone Mine, which has limited activation, so not a lot of green or blue pips for the Shapeshifter or a future Survival of the Fittest.
Oh, you know what? Can tap for blue. How does the Gray Ogre feel right here? Probably not that good.
So Tormod's Crypt's the only card it can hit, right?
That's correct.
I guess, how do you see the game going? Like, is there? Well, I don't.
It can hit a Mishra's Factory that has blocked.
if you didn't have a Gemstone Mine, I think there's a lot more merit of just like running out of 2/2. But like, I don't think I would want to use the counter on my Gemstone Mine at this point.
I'm inclined to agree.
But then also kind of like that, how often is that 2/2 going to make like a difference in terms of applying some amount of pressure where it would win you a game that you wouldn't have otherwise won? Because that's the thing, like McLean like typically will, it's not like a burn deck where you just win by like 1 card of 3 damage.
That's correct. However,
win in a fantastic fashion. So
the reason why it's an interesting question is because the turn to do it would be on turn 3 and no later. So despite the fact that I completely agree that it's just you would have to make a very hard argument to run out that Tabby, considering that it also hedges against a future Chainer's Edict, and you're not using your mana this turn, like whatever. But you're also not going to use your mana in future turns because you're probably going to draw dead at some point, and it also pitches to survival. That said, there's a universe of games in which the turn 3 and no later Tabby Orangutan goes coast to coast. I mean, Bernhard is got a knack for drawing City of Brass, so it's not a nominal amount of damage. And I mean, this is not even threatening. We're gonna play an instant. Pulls up the file. Oh, it's just a Naturalize.
all right.
Wow. Oh, the Naturalize is there for the Engineered Plagues, which Bernhard has cleverly not boarded in. But it catches the deed, so value is still in. So blanking the Naturalize is actually kind of a fun way to, as a fun upside to not bringing in Plague.
I will say, I thought it was interesting that in the last game, Bernhard never really played a threat. I mean, the Deranged Hermit was in his hand at the end of the game, and he just won the game with just 2 Treetop Villages. So it's,
yes, green land still. You haven't.
It's just ironic. I mean, that we were talking about, like, usually
he's got to cast Natural Order.
He's got to apply pressure and whatnot. And it's like, no, he just never even cast. I mean, I guess the rest of his deck, unless he brought in Ravenous Baloth, he doesn't really have any other forms of pressure beyond the natural. It's Deranged Hermit or Natural Order targets, because the rest is just like Wall of Roots and Birds of Paradise and a Yavimaya Elder. And so, but yeah, the Treetop Villages were able to get it done.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened to Mike in the Soul game that he won against David Tao. He's just got in with Treetop. If you think about it, right, you just like load up your hand. You like, what would be ideal? Would be to like hit all your land drops and disrupt your opponent for like 5 straight turns, and then on turn 6 you untap. You have 2 Treetop Villages, and it's likely a 3-turn clock. And so you're done disrupting your opponent, but like you can't disrupt your opponent with Call of the Herd. As much as I love the card, like it just doesn't do anything the turn that you play it. Now, granted, it's a down payment on future mana, but if it's so crucial to be interacting with your opponent on turns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, untapping on turn 7, and you've already played a creature that doesn't have summoning sickness that can start clocking immediately, I think is a viable strategy. Now, of course, no Treetop Villages on Bernard's side right now, and unfortunately, Rock, not being able to control its draws, needs to adapt to what cards it has in hand. So McLean has let a few turns pass without casting anything. And we are going to run out a Naked Shapeshifter. So I don't know what we are hoping for off the top of our deck.
Just a chroma. Just, I mean, survival of the fittest.
I stand
too.
corrected.
I mean, survival of the fittest, you'd be able to discard Uktabi Orangutan and then...
Yep, get a chroma.
Yeah.
And of course, it still has action in the graveyard. The presence of 0 Tormod's Crypts means that Unearth can always pull this Shapeshifter back. But right now, it's just a Naturalize. Single green for birds. Love to see it. Flashback Cabal Therapy naming Uktabi Orangutan.
So now the Shapeshifter no longer a 0/1.
Now the shape up.
Oh. I spoke.
Well,
maybe I
that's
spoke too soon.
If this is all cards that Bernard has waited to play, I really got to hand it to him. This is just some super tight rock play, and never mind, I guess. I mean, well, obviously he was sandbagging the cards. He just played 3 cards in one turn, so at least 2 of the cards he was sandbagging. But I really like that sequencing, with no threat of anything happening to him. He's waiting to milk some value out of his cards and maximizing. He's capitalizing on that 1.01. He's maybe even getting 1.1 out of each of his rock cards. Something that you absolutely have to do. So this is just super. Like, this is just like how you play the rock, right? You've got Cabal Therapy. You know that opponent's cards in hand. That birds definitely look like they came off the top, but you're just waiting to maximize value. Granted, none of these cards had any targets until he cast them, so the only thing that he really sandbagged was the Tormod's Crypt, but he did hold it until after he turned on Unearth.
The only problem here is that classic idea of Bernard has no pressure. I mean, he's taken away everything that McLean's doing, but with no way to pressure McLean, like, this game is going to go on for 7 or 8 more turns, and McLean just could draw some random creatures and then a survival, and be in a very good position.
Yeah, it's interesting. This actually does kind of highlight the sort of position where Farkas forgoed his ability to cast a card like Bottomless Pit, which would have produced, a virtual soft lock on the FEB player until they could sort of get survival Squee or get something going like that. But we are going to just destroy this Tormod's Crypt with Unearth. It's pretty sick that this Shapeshifter comes into play as a tabby, so it just completely forces the issue. But now McLean just has to contend with a Pernicious Deed. So both players at 1 card and 5 lands, and Schmidt has a deed. But yeah, we are. I mean, so. We have a threat. Game's over. So yeah, I completely agree with you, but these problems are just endemic to the rock, right? Because you can't choose, like, you don't. The only tool that you have, the only like kind of solves everything tool is Pernicious Deed. It really ties the room together, right? But you're playing cards like Tormod's Crypt and Chainer's Edict and like whatever, and you're hoping that you get far enough ahead that you can have like a Tormod's Crypt in play that's like not going to do anything for a few turns, or miss on a Cabal Therapy. And you know, this kind of goes back to the thing I was saying during sideboarding, which was just that, like, you know, Bernhard has to use all of his cards for value. Like, he could lose the game if he has some form of pressure, like a Blasted Term, instead of some form of interaction, like a Chainer's Edict. Granted, in this exact spot, I'd probably trade my Edict for a Blasted Term, but this Meddling Mage from McLean, you know, is going to be pretty easily shrugged off. It can even just be ignored until the moment that it matters, thanks to the presence of Pernicious Deed. Although what McLean can do, of course, is naturalize the deed when the Treetop Village is a creature to get a slick 2-for-2.
All right.
I wasn't going to say it, Robin.
I'm trying to read what card was.
Chainer's Edict.
Chainer's Edict, okay.
He's like, well, that's a card that I know you have. I mean, look, if he draws a Chroma, then, you know, his mage gets deeded, but at least a Chroma's double protected. I actually rarely name edicts with mage because mage always counters the first edict, but if it's face up in your opponent's graveyard, it's pretty high floor to just name it.
Sure. I should probably update the life totals as
at this point in the game, we've seen 2 post sideboarded matches. Do you think that there is a world in which Bernhard has boarded out Natural Order?
Well, I'm trying to think of the game that we saw. Did we see any of the fatties in game 3? No, I don't think we did. I do think it's possible. But
and we also haven't seen any copies of Engineered Plague. So it's going to be a fun conversation in the post game to see if Bernhard has a 5D chess sideboarding strategy a la Michael J. Flores.
One of the things, like, we've seen, I mean, they were very situational. It was like Bernhard was very quick to like flashback Cabal Therapy with his green creatures, which otherwise, if he did have a natural order, he might have to prioritize more keeping in play. But that's not necessarily an indication if they're in or out. But
I mean, the thing is, you're talking about 6 slots, right? And
7 even, right? Verdant Force. There's 3 creatures.
Oh, I wouldn't keep Multani, but yeah. We are cycling a lot of unearths on McLean's side, unfortunately. So, of course, he's got plenty of mana, so it's kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think the heads up play is to just make your deck a Treetop Village Landstill deck, which is currently doing its thing. And we have also an official answer on whether the Hermit package is in. So that is likely going to force an activation of the card Pernicious Deed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any merit to waiting, but I don't. It doesn't seem very profitable, I guess. It seems like only things could go wrong.
Yeah. I would once again, I would just be like, what could happen? Just like, I mean, this is like all the equity of the Hermit deck. Oh man, Bernhard is like low key flashing all. It's fine. You can flash your draw steps, Bernhard. It doesn't really matter. We know what all your cards do. But yeah, notably, McLean's on a square 9 life, so that's what we're going. The read from Twitch chat, survival in hand, certainly seems plausible.
Would you play a Hermit Druid if you had a survival in your hand?
Well, I'm a few mana short off of Chroma, and my life total is under a lot of pressure, so I need to stop the deed, and then I can stop the Treetop Village permanently.
That's fair, yeah.
But I could also get Squee, and then something, and then Squee could gain 1 life a turn.
Well, if you had survival and drew a creature, you could there's still a Devourer in the deck, right? That didn't get it. Well, now there's a Torment Script. I was to say.
Yeah, you're still live to produce a win.
Yeah.
You would still want to produce an uninterruptible win, because at this point, with as many cards in hand from the Rock player, you're looking at need to once again produce the bulletproof win, which you can't do without material. So you'd have to do it with grinding through Squee. So, yeah, this Birds of Paradise from Dominaria Remastered.
It's gonna keep him alive.
Yep, and then he's not going to be able to tap for greater than one colored mana 2 more times. Triskelion, baby. It's gonna get edicts. Okay, so we have Triskelion and Wall of Roots. Man, what? Like, yeah. Guess we're just playing it out. Meddling Mage and Psychatog. Doesn't work. It's the crypt. Yeah. Okay. D for 1.
This should, be able to.
I'll crypt you first.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think we can definitely deduce that the natural order package has gone off. So this full control plan from the Rock has proven to be surprisingly strong, mostly in the face of some heavy mulliganing on the Hermit FEB side.
Mm-hmm.
When McLean mulligans so deep, I honestly considered if this is like a matchup where you just never mulligan, you just keep any 7 that has a land.
I will say, like, I think Bernhard also has mulliganed. I don't know if it's something that he's looking for particular cards, but I think he's mulliganed every game as well.
He's probably mulliganing hands that have like 6 mana sources, right?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you're right. You're certainly right. But if he's like, what cards is he looking for? If you board it out natural order, his deck is just all removal. It's just Chainer's Edict, Smothers, Vendetta, Naturalize, Tormod's Crypt, Haunting Echoes, heck, even some Engineered Plague. That maybe
maybe the idea is that he is getting something that can get rid of survival, so that all his removal spells are able to fight the other aspect of McLean's deck.
I like it.
So
yeah, that would be super sweet. I'm pretty impressed. I mean, I think that 2 times in a row I said that the Hermit FEB player should be able to top deck their way out of a low resource situation, and twice in a row that has proven not to be the case.
Yeah, McLean has drawn a lot of land in those situations. Like he's finished multiple games with like 8 or 9 mana, which his only like a 22 land deck, right?
Something of the sort. Yeah, it's 22 land deck with 4 Birds of Paradise and a Wall of Roots. So, those only tap for mana or pitch to Survival of the Fittest. And there's also obviously 3 Spirit Guides, which I'm sort of deducing are gone. Although Grey Ogre is looking pretty good these days. So, how bad would a deck that's just a bunch of 2/2s with Meddling Mage on Deed be against Bernhard here? Bernhard went to 6 on game 3, and McLean went to 5 on both games. Sorry, game 3 and 4. Game 3, both players went to 5. Game 4, McLean went to 5 and Bernhard went to 6.
So going back to your game plan, it seems good until like Treetop Village or Deranged Hermit like come into play.
So then we board in the Sword Splashers. I mean, if Bernhard is going so light on threats, is Swords of Plowshare is not plausible here to buy you greater than 1 draw step, right? Because if it buys you 1 draw step, then it's kind of like, yeah, well, then it could just be like any card. But if it buys you like 3 draw steps on the back of plowing a Treetop Village, it might actually be a real thing.
I certainly can see that.
I mean, Bernard's just also been really good at drawing his 2 of Stormont scripts, right? So he's had the Hermit Druid line cut off just 1,000,000% of the time, in addition to a triple unearth situation. So you made the comment that McLean flooded in game 4. We saw McLean flood after cycling twice. Notably, those pockets of land are just more likely to show up the longer the game goes. I mean, I don't know if that's bad math, but that's vibes. That's boy math, magic math. All right. Bernhard is shipping. It is certainly symptomatic of a slightly more aggressive mulligan strategy to mull 3 straight games playing the rock when all your cards have relatively flat power level. But he could just be unlucky. We'll see.
So has McLean kept a full 7?
Looks like McLean has kept 7 because he hasn't shipped and he's on the play.
Okay. So we could be in for some fireworks, I guess, at the beginning. I guess.
Yeah, maybe McLean just goes full turbo and just like Eldritch Spirit Guides out of Hermit Druid on turn 1.
It does not seem great against like the very heavy removal spell plan.
Just fades, but he only has to fade on one Vendetta. That's all he has to do. He's the Grand Master.
You'd have to fade the Torment scripts as well.
Okay, he has to fade 5 cards. How hard could it be? I guess Bernhard is mulliganing to make sure he's got a turn with Black Interaction. I mean, Bernhard is 4 for 4 on Cabal Therapy or Duress on turn 1, so it's possible that's a linchpin of his strategy. Which, again, I'd be really impressed with, because when I play the rock, if I have a hand that has lands and spells, I keep it. I don't even look at what they are. I don't even look at my lands producing the right mana, because I hope to draw the ones that do. Like, if you draw a hand with all forests and all black cards, you're like, I deserve a black source, right? You don't like think about the math. You're just like, I'm going to draw a black source because I deserve it.
Yeah. Well, McLean's going to do his best Bernhard impression and kick things off with a turn 1 discard spell in the form of Cabal Therapy. What card do you think? I guess it's probably very context dependent whether you're naming Naturalize or Deed, or it could be Vendetta or Duress, or I guess I think a lot of it depends on what McLean has in his hand. Do you have any inclination what he would name?
I think that he would name maybe he would name a 1-mana black spell.
Okay.
I think that those are all strong choices. They're present in 4 ofs in Bernhard's deck, and they're sort of fundamental to disrupting McLean's development. So if he has the survival in hand, I might tag a Duress. Of course, that would open the door for Cabal Therapy to have a very obvious choice. If he wants to be coy about it, he can Therapy naming Therapy. But Therapy, of course, gets value from the graveyard, and I hope he named Naturalize. But evidently he did not. So the flashback naming Naturalize is going to be quite good. And also quite good would just be... yeah, I mean, it's just going to be good. It's just going to be good when he flashes this back.
Yeah, it's problematic in the sense that, like, Naturalize is not a card you can play proactively. So, like, I mean, it doesn't even need to come in any... I guess Torment Script would be the only reason that it would need to come down early. But, like, yeah, McLean can wait to flash this back almost at any point.
He is facing out a Chainer's Edict, though. And if he does pick off these 2 Naturalizes, it is just a 2 for 2. But like you said, he can just let this die to the Chainer's Edict, which Bernhard will, of course, be obliged to do out of respect for
McLean having an unearthed in hand.
Yeah, possibly getting killed. But of course, if McLean has an unearthed in hand, Bernhard is oh so unlucky. I like this blue dice, putting in a lot of work. Showing our hand counts, showing our mining counter counts. Ooh. Still had all these.
Certainly presenting a lot of threats and a lot of pressure.
I mean, this game is just literally over unless Bernhard has interaction, because it only takes 3 mana to execute the kill. And we don't have Coffin Purge in Bernhard's deck.
So for this immediate, like, so if he just has 3 mana and no unearth, then he would need 2 turns, right?
No, he just needs 1 turn. He just Crows and Reclamations the 2 unearths into his deck, draws unearth, and casts unearth for 1B. This deck just natural wins on turn 3 with 1 card.
But then he would need a 4th mana that turn because he would be activating, flashing back, and casting unearth.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. So he needs the land drop out of his hand.
Or an Elvish Spirit Guide.
Yes, of course.
Which I don't know if it's even in the deck at this point, but
okay, so Bernhard has no choice but to do the thing, and I think this little fist shake here implies that the unearth is either in hand or
the mana source is there.
Yeah, the mana source is there. The mana source is not there, but the unearth is in hand.
All right. Yep. McLean flashes the unearth, and
Just imagine what it must be like to be this good at playing a deck. Just like, I have never been this good at a deck. I guess I was really good at Replenish against Rich, but those weren't BO5s.
Yeah. I guess Bernhard is.
He's like, just show me. Just make sure.
I guess is there like any permutation of cards that would be in McLean's hand that would not allow him to combo?
If he has Psychatog, Achroma,
but the Cabal
Karmic Guide.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He just has all of it in hand. He just like shows the unearth and he's like, I win, right? He's like, poof. He's just like, I know he can therapy himself, but can he therapy himself 4 times? If he has all the shapeshifters, all the Bernhard's not being coy. He's like, I don't have my 0 mana interaction. Okay. Let's see if McLean missequences, and then Bernhard says, no take-backsies. Oh, he does have 1 piece in hand. And that was the piece that he needed. So yeah, if he had 2 pieces in hand, like it would have been harder.
Okay. So on this turn 4 for McLean, right?
Yep, that's McLean's turn 4.
Yep.
He goes Hermit Druid into Hermit Druid. That's all you need to do. So what's plausible? I'll just ask him, I guess, what he named on Cabal Therapy on turn 1 that game. It's probably Vendetta, and it could be Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, I would say, like, especially after the first 2 games, Bernhard definitely put up a fight and definitely gave the Rock fans some hope to cling on to. But alas, the Hermit FEB is.
It's almost a little sad because we took this like detour through like just like I mean, come on, man! Like you made him work so hard for those 2 wins.
It's that big foot of the Hermit FEB deck just squishes.
Don't give me hope.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me hope, man. Like, if you're gonna do this to me, just do it quick. Get it over with.
All right, let's jump down and listen into the players and see if they can give us insight of how they sideboarded, and then we can do some interviews with them once they're ready.
Sorry, I boarded basically the whole thing out and just boarded hate in. So.
Yep. Natural order is out. Love to see it. Let's see these plagues.
I didn't see a plague.
Yeah, I was like curious if you boarded them in or not because I didn't see any. But
I didn't draw it. I think Blake would have instead of the
Oh yeah, if you had a plague there.
Blake instead of Pernicious Deed would have been.
That's a huge point. That's a huge point. Okay, points for plague. Still matters, y'all.
At all. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. One more card is missing.
Yeah, so quite a transformation out of the Rock decks.
Yeah,
but also,
I just transformed into a Rock
Guide, Fiend, a Cabal Therapy, and the Coffin Verge.
Okay.
The whole sideboard came in. Everything except Baylox.
Yeah, you can see I just put all the disruption.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't know if you would bring in the Chainer's Edict, but I think it was a good move.
I mean, it's still better than the other cards.
Yeah.
So in a way, I just chose all the cards that are that do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And rather than having like these big creatures that you never are able to cast.
Yeah.
The thing is, I have to stop you from comboing off. If you combo, then I lose. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
and even if I get a Nishoba or whatever, it still takes me 3 turns, right?
Yeah.
It's not
a little
fast
too
enough.
slow.
Yeah, so I rather stop you comboing off than getting my own game plan going.
So Robin pointed out early that the Nishoba can actually
Yeah, and I mean, it
put the life
definitely
total high enough
it worked.
to stop the Hermit kill from one attack.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
Would
it worked
one
better than
swing usually be
expected.
enough, or does
Yeah,
it probably
I-
needs
yeah,
2?
it was-
Right?
I didn't think I
Played it
I
well,
win
very
one
well.
game, right?
Yeah,
It's
So-
like 26 damage, maybe.
Okay.
it was like the comeback from
Yeah.
like.
So I mean, it was like, had I won, it would have been like a story for the ages, right? Every
Yeah.
rock player would know about it. Do you remember back in the day, there was this one guy who beat FEB with rock, and he was 2-0 down, and then he
Yeah.
made it. So,
That makes Bernhard like
someone would
a-
make a movie about it.
That makes
Yeah.
Bernhard like the young
okay, good.
the knight, like the
That's
gladiator,
the Fall Brawl for me.
like a martyr.
I guess.
Yeah,
do we
I wish you.
Mhm.
I think we can unmute. So I wish you good luck for the
Thank you.
half final, right?
Yeah.
Semi-final. That's all.
Semifinal. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd play either the winner of Mike Arnold's match.
Let's see. I can also exit the full screen now.
I don't know if this is live to happen, but I'm really excited to see Robin playing Grotog against Hermit FEB.
Okay.
Like, I know all your tricks. It's like, you can't fool me.
I think you probably could just said I would have been excited to watch Grotog, and everyone would understand that, right? Or you're saying more of just because of Robin like playing his.
Yeah.
It's like-
I mean, obviously, I'm excited to see Grotog, but I'm not excited to see Grotog lose.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see Grotog win against Hermit FEB.
Okay.
We're back.
I'm also
We're-
not allowed to show bias. Remember, I'm not.
Oh, it's fine. Hello,
We
players.
unmuted you.
Okay. Yeah. That was a fantastic match. We were kind of like joking that like the games that Bernhard won are like these long drawn out games, and
He's
he's
like
got to
covered in
like
blood.
he's got to fight for everything to win those games, and then
He's like,
the games that
got a
McLean
shield
is
and a
just
sword.
yeah.
Oh my god. He goes back into the ring. It's like throwing all his punches. He's like,
Yeah, those were some really. Those were
Yeah.
great match. Just
Yeah.
great.
And then all of a sudden he like wipes his eyes open. He wipes his eyes open. He's like, oh my god, he's done. He's on the floor. Bell rings for the next time. It's just like, it's like
Yeah, so
knock him out in one shot.
it went
Yeah.
it went better than I thought actually.
Yeah, it was,
But yeah, it was intense, right? So many decisions in there. So.
Dude, these always go to 5 games. Like so many of these series go to 5 games. It's like a greater than the mathematical amount. I'm calling it. It's a curse. Especially if Mike has to get back to work.
Yeah.
I still got a little bit of time, so but yeah, I would say like when I saw the first game, Bernhard, like I mean, you had Cabal Therapy and Vendetta, and I'm sure you opened that hand and be like, all right, this is what I need, and McLean just had it was like Hermit Druid, Unearth, or whatever. It's like, well, I don't know.
He just said the other part.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
the 3 games I won. I was drawing really well.
Okay.
It was like I had everything I needed basically.
Yeah, keep 7. I mean, game 2 you multi 6 and then had perfect 6. So,
Mhm.
or no, game 2 you top deck survival of the fittest.
Yeah, that was I got cabaled, and then
Which was
I
very impolite of you.
I drew 2 in a row that game. But
Yeah. He apologized a lot for it.
it was a shameful game. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't-
Not like this.
Is this a
Laughing all
matchup
the
either
way
of
to
you
the
have
bank.
played a number of times, or is this kind of new territory?
I practiced Michael Arnold actually. He like sleeved up his version, or he has basically the same deck. So we played a few games. But
Okay.
That was the first time.
Do you feel like
played
the way the match played out is kind of representative of what you expect, or?
Yeah, it felt like pre-board. It felt like I had like a pretty good odds, and then post-board it gets more dicey, and like it's really about how it lines up, like the removal and what I have.
Was
and
your
mulliganing too much is pretty dangerous, I feel like.
So basically, both games that Bernard. Am I saying your name right, Bernard? Is it like?
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, Bernie.
You can also say Bernie if you like.
Both games that the Rock won was basically just like a cast every spell in my hand and then get in with Treetop Villages. Is this how either player pictured the wins happening post board?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought all the natural order stuff out because it's just too slow and it won't help. So for me it was clear because then I lose all this quick winning, and I go back to the traditional the Rock where you just trade 1 for 1 and and hopefully you grind it out.
Yeah, black green control.
Well,
Yeah.
even like after that plan though, you have more responses to what he's doing, but way less threats. So like, because you're pretty much this Treetop Village and Deranged Hermit are the ways that you have to win close out a game. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think it. I was thinking he was going to board out the natural order, and I was almost thinking about bringing in swords just for the treetops, because if I can get rid of those, it's gonna draw the game out even longer. But they're just a dead card for most of the game. So.
Yeah, that's what I was contemplating. If so, you get into these end game states, and basically black green control is trying to just hope to draw fewer lands than you. But every time you plow a treetop, you're putting them like until they find their next treetop village back. And they could, of course, hammer with the Deranged Hermit. But if the plan is to only attack with treetops, like if you have one wall of roots and you like plow a second, like you have 2 treetops covered, they need to find a 3rd treetop to get any damage in. You could flip the script and then become 5-color control against the black green control deck and be like, well, it can't get through my tutus.
It's interesting because you can only really make that assumption after you've like seen the deck list and see how things have played. Because if Bernard had sideboarded differently, I guess you would maybe want the plows if he was on the natural order plan. But like a traditional rock list, they have they have Ravenous Baloths or more creatures, whether it's Phyrexian Ragers, and maybe you're not able to take that assumption of where a Swords to Plowshares is going to do that. So it's interesting that like you get in the situation in like a best of 5 and can kind of make those decisions, or at least contemplate them. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And when I did the test match with Michael, it was like Meddling Mage was really good in that, because I have 3 post board, so a lot of there was some games where it's just like locking out him with Meddling Mage. I think he wasn't bored. We weren't sure if Chainer's Edict would come in or not. Chainer's Edict. But that made the Meddling Mages worse, I think, because it's just like an extra amount of removal that
has a different name,
has a different name and can be cast twice. So it's like the like long game Meddling Mage approach becomes worse.
Chad has a question about your love for carrots and whether or not it's literal or figurative.
It was a pun. I don't know if anyone got it. Because it was, why should people root for me?
Okay.
That's all. But I do like carrots.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed the delivery on the joke then.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the ideal root veggie to name, because like when I think root veggies, I'm thinking like beets and potatoes.
Is a leek a root?
Potato. Is a leek a root? I mean,
a leek?
A leek is an allium.
Yeah.
But it has roots like most vegetables that grow on the ground.
Yeah.
These are the important questions.
Yes. Much more relevant than our match.
So going in, who did each of you think was going to win?
I thought I was favored, especially to me, best of 5 was better for me.
Because you get more game wins,
Yeah, so it's like, if I can get the first 2 games, then I just, like what happened, I just have to get one. I just have to have like a really good hand in one of the next 3 ones. So yeah, I was pretty scared of the side. It's basically the whole sideboard is coming in. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Although the Crypt Haunting Echoes Nombo, huh?
Yeah, it's also Crypt Deed is a bit a number.
Yeah.
I rather have more
Sort of, but
answers
yeah,
than lesser
exactly.
answers, right?
It's like if you have both, then at least you have. There's both is better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. I think Bernard, I really felt your play was very precise. You squeezed a lot of value out of your cards, and like it was you're getting to those winning. I mean, I think the sideboarding was really sharp, and getting into those winning positions, was really well done. And I think it's safe to say that that McLean's just too good at getting lucky. What the heck, man?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, in the last game I had these 2 naturalizes, and he's on the level. So.
You're like, no, I want it to be the other green card.
Yeah.
Like the whole match, I felt like it was like I was just waiting for the Cabal Therapy choice from him.
Yeah. You're just like every time.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that actually. That's kind of sweet. But McLean, you're the chosen one, so it is you who must go on. It is you who must carry the torch for the Cabal.
Great match.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say congratulations to both of you for getting this far. Job well done, Bernard. Is there anything that either of you want to say before we sign off for today?
I just wish McLean a lot of luck for the remaining.
Actually, I don't think he needs luck. I'm pretty sure like the FEB Discord like participates in these like blood rituals that produce like top decks, and just like it's like a very precise one. It's like a win the first 2 games but then lose 2, and then like the 3 there's just like no doubt in the mind. You've got Robin and Galen, McLean, and Mike in a circle, and they're just like slitting their wrists and just like dripping it into the chalice and just like feeding it into the Hermit Druid. Actually, Mike is the Hermit Druid, right? So he's saying Mike is the Hermit Druid, and then Kevin's like Robin's like the goblin that's killed the like thing, the survival of the fittest art, and then the other guy's like getting Cabal Therapy. It's just like there's like all 3 of them in a circle.
Yeah.
Who's the shapeshifter?
Apparently, I'm doing my playtesting wrong. That's what I heard. If that's the way to do it.
We're all sitting here playing cards, and the rest of them are doing chants.
We never actually play. It's just
they never actually play. They just. All
right. Well, I do want to thank players. I do want to thank everyone in chat. It was nice that we were able to get in a European stream like that. We're able to be friendly. I know a lot of times that I stream, it's not very convenient for anyone across the pond. So thanks anyone who was able to tune in when they're not normally able to. But thank you, players, and we'll see McLean later in the semifinals. We still do have 2 more quarterfinals to play. We're looking at playing those on Thursday and Friday this week. So stay tuned as I post more information about that. But thank you, Lanny, for jumping in the booth and providing great insight and entertainment. I think that's enough that I'm ready to wrap things up, unless anyone wants to add anything before we go.
Yeah, thanks for hosting and organizing it all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, all right. So once again, thanks everyone for tuning in, but until next time, take care.